Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-atheist. Welcome to my channel. If you want to learn how to support the channel and its mission to normalize atheism and deconversion, stay tuned to the end of the video. Today I am reacting to a video by Bible Books Explained called The Dark Side of Atheism, a Lesson from History. The video's claim is that it's an exploration of atheism's impact on history and philosophy. Let's see if they live up to that claim. So take it away, Bible Books Explained.
Hey there, history buffs! Today, I'm diving into a heavy topic, how atheism may have influenced some of history's darkest moments. Buckle up, because we're going on a journey through time, examining if a lack of belief in a higher power had a hand in shaping the atrocities of the past.
Yeah, before we begin, let's see if we hit the checklist of what apologists who like to talk about this sort of thing hit. Let me guess. 1, Stalin was an atheist and it shaped what he did to his people. 2, Hitler's atrocities were shaped by atheism. 3, atheism leads to nihilism, which doesn't give people hope. So as we continue through the video, let's see how we do.
Let's start with a chilling image, Stalin's last moments. The man who led a reign of terror, responsible for the deaths of millions, clenched his fist at the heavens in his final breaths.
If he was shaking his fist at God, then he wasn't an atheist at that point. An atheist doesn't believe in God, so why would he be shaking his fist at the sky, and that would be God? Sorry, this sounds like a propagandized image created by theists, because the actual account of Stalin's death just has him kind of waking up suddenly, shaking his fist at something and falling back to sleep. It could be anything that he was shaking his fist at. He was kind of in a position where he's in bed where he has to shake his fist upward. But the account says that also that Stalin was regularly plagued by hallucinations at this time. He had had several strokes. He had all kinds of ailments at this time. So I'm not really sure counting on him to be, coherent and doing stuff that was rational would have been very much a part of that. And so whether he was shaking his fist at God or whatever, but if he was shaking his fist at God, then he wasn't an atheist at that point, because he's obviously believing in God. I don't think, though, at this point in his life, I would trust any of Stalin's motivations at the time of his death. He was clearly not all there. But Stalin killed most of the people that he killed for political motivations to protect his power. And if he had any kind of religion, it was the state of the Soviet Union was his religion. He never states in any way that his motive was to spread atheism and wipe out believers. Most of the groups that opposed him got wiped out regardless of religiosity. There are many, after all, the Russian Orthodox Church still existed even in the Soviet Union. But let's also be honest here, the logic of this is really bad. I would be using bad logics to say, for instance, that Vlad Dracula, the Impaler, named by the churches as the defender of the faith, is a good example of a Christian ruler, and thus conclude that this is where all Christian philosophy leads us to. Just because one ruler who happens to do something does atrocities doesn't mean that all the rest of the people that follow that particular philosophy or that belief system or lack of belief system are thus evil. But check the first box that Stalin was an atheist and it inspired what he did to his people. That's just not true.
This image sets the stage for exploring the dangers of atheism, as argued by various thinkers. Atheism, defined here as the categorical denial of God, is distinguished from agnosticism.
Oh, I forgot to add a box to check, misdefining atheism. Atheism is the lack of belief in all gods, not a categorical denial of God's existence. As for agnostics, I always ask them if they have an active belief in any God, and the usual answer is no, which makes them atheists as well by a proper definition of atheism. Atheism is simply, I don't believe in any gods. And it's not just your God in particular. I always like how Christian theists in particular like to say that atheism is about their God. I don't just disbelieve in your God, Christians. I disbelieve in everybody else's too. Okay, just like you do. The way you portray it is kind of a shade of, we really actually believe in God, but we deny that he's there, which is wrong in many ways. I'm not interested in a categorical denial of God. I'm more of an agnostic atheist that says, sorry, I used to believe this stuff because I thought the evidence was convincing, but the more I looked at the evidence, the more I realized it wasn't all that convincing, and now I no longer believe. It's not so much that I just wanted to categorically deny God. It's more of, the more I assess the evidence, the less and less convincing it became.
The argument is that without a higher moral authority, the door to nihilism opens wide, and with it, the potential for atrocities.
Yeah, and it's a shit argument. Lack of belief in God can lead you in multiple different directions. One of the complaints the atheist community members often have is there isn't a lot of unity among atheists as far as even social views, political views, etc., etc. So, the idea that it automatically goes down a certain direction, that's just not borne up by actual atheism. But it has always been the contention of those who hold to divine command theory that this is what leads to good morals, except many of the divine commands seem to get altered and reinterpreted over time.
For instance, David Berlinski suggests that Richard Dawkins's purely Darwinian worldview could lead to fascism.
Yeah, he was wrong, and who cares what this one person thinks? I'm certainly no fascist, and I believe in Darwinian evolution. Darwinian evolution can lead to a lot of things, but it's more about a factual consideration of the diversity of life. But fascists tend to actually be believers in God, so I'm not really sure that this works. Okay, we'll get to Hitler, I'm sure, in a moment, so I'll leave that for then. Darwinian evolution is actually neutral as far as it comes to morality and moral theories, although there have been some good works about how evolution has led to moral development in social species. So, it seems like our morality develops as a necessity for survival and thriving. So, the thing with Darwinian evolution is a scientific theory, and using the scientific definition of the word theory, this means it's something that's proven to a very high level of established fact. Nihilism also doesn't lead to atrocities necessarily either. Just because you personally may think that there's no ultimate purpose in life doesn't automatically translate well that I'm going to go out and kill everybody. It's more of a discussion of what ultimate purpose of life is, and they basically conclude that there isn't one. But many nihilists also have temporal purposes that guide them. But I see that you pulled up a German soldier of the Third Reich, so I wonder what's coming next.
Chilling, right? Further, the author points to Hitler's attempt to create a master race as another example. Without a belief in a higher moral compass, good and evil become subjective, leading to horrific actions like the Holocaust. It's argued that the Nazis' nihilistic worldview was a direct result of their rejection of transcendent moral values. Philosophically, without God, defining good, evil, or even human purpose becomes a daunting task. The Holocaust serves as a stark example of what can happen when society loses its moral compass. It's a reminder that the stakes are incredibly high.
Yep, called it. Nothing like revising history to make your point. I guess I'm going to have to keep harping on this next point until people get it. Hitler and the Third Reich were not motivated by Darwinian evolution, as Hitler rejected it. Darwinian evolution, in many senses, is kind of passive. It just happens. You can't really guide or direct it. It's just an adaptation to environment. As life evolves, it adapts to its environment. What Hitler believed in was a kind of evolution where if he put people in a certain position, he could bring out certain traits. And if he engaged in eugenics, he could, get rid of certain traits in society that he considered lower. And this just wasn't him. There was a lot of American eugenics experiments and ideas in the United States and other places as well. He wasn't alone in this, but he certainly wasn't following Darwinian evolution. Darwinian evolution just doesn't have this idea that if you put people in a certain situation, they're going to evolve very quickly into anything. Darwinian evolution tends to be a little bit slower and is more descriptive. Hitler and others wanted to make it proscriptive as what to do with society. And I think it's actually calling something social Darwinism is actually a very misunderstanding of Darwinism. But Hitler's hatred of the Jews was echoed by the Roman Catholic Church at the time. That's why Hitler found the Roman Catholic Church an easy ally. The RCC apologized for their involvement with Hitler after the war, but the anti-Semitic teaching of the church provided a very fertile ground that was in no way contradicted Hitler. But Hitler was never an atheist. He was for most of his life a Roman Catholic with some weird paganism thrown in. Not once, though, was he ever a non-believer in God. So he was on your team, not mine. The Third Reich was dominated by people who were Roman Catholic and Lutheran. They were not an atheist country, but rather a highly Christian one. As for morality, if morality comes from a higher power, it is still subject to that higher power and thus is subjective as well. I'm still waiting for somebody to give me a moral system that everyone agrees to and is no way subject to another person or another person's interpretation. The simple fact is human morality is subject to humans and thus will always be subjective. And so the whole idea of subjective and objective morality just doesn't make any sense to me anymore because it's all subjective. And so therefore we have to find what method and morality that leads us to more objective rules so that people's rights are respected. Also, the Holocaust is a great example of an irrational hatred born of religious dogma, particularly the dogma of the Roman Catholic Church that Jesus was killed by the Jews and therefore the Jews were supposed to be despised, something that the Roman Catholic Church literally held for over a millennia. And so, that's what provided the fertile ground for Hitler's anti-Semitic ideas. But the box of Hitler's atrocity were shaped by atheism is checked off from the apologists, but it's just not true.
Now let's pivot to the search for meaning. While atheism might intellectually satisfy some, it often leaves a void in the human heart. Many poets and musicians, despite their often bleak outlook, grapple with a longing for something more. Personal anecdotes highlight this struggle. Imagine a wealthy businessman with everything money could buy, yet feeling deeply unfulfilled.
Wow, talk about subjective. Void in the human heart. Writers and poets all grappling with something more are all subjective arguments. Subjectivity is not a good thing when it comes to morality, but it is the main reason I should search for meaning in God. Boy, what a nice switch. Feeling deeply unfulfilled as a business is not something that objectively proves that meaning is found in God or a higher power, nor does it prove that the higher power exists. No personal anecdote proves anything about truth.
Contrast this with Mother Teresa, whose selfless service brought profound meaning and purpose to her life.
Yeah, a woman who took all her money for others and used it not to alleviate the suffering of the people under her care, but rather build more nunneries. Christopher Hitchens exposed her a long time ago as a fraud and wrote several articles and books with very good documentation of them of what she actually did with the money and what she actually did in her houses of dying. Sorry, this is not a great example, as she may have had a very good personal mission in life, but it wasn't a good one given her religious motivations. She's actually a really good example of the dark side of Christian theism, particularly Roman Catholic theism.
The author suggests that true fulfillment comes not from material possessions, but from dedicating oneself to something greater. In closing, there's hope for redemption and finding meaning, even after making wrong choices. True hope, the author argues, lies beyond ourselves, hinting at a reality where meaning and purpose are received as a gift rather than self-created.
Well, these are all nice vague ideas and conjecture, and maybe I missed it, but I don't know which book you're referencing. My guess is the Bible as a whole. Regardless, though, that is the author's opinion and nothing more. I disagree, and I actually have a pretty good purpose for my life as I see it, as well as a lot of better understanding of my own meaning without inflating my ego with mythology or wishful thinking. This is all pure grade A opinion at this point and not established fact. Atheism does not necessarily lead to nihilism, but then again, this video is overplaying nihilism and has no meaning to life at all. The point of nihilism is that there is no ultimate meaning to human existence, not that one can't find a temporal meaning in our current existence. Even under nihilism, this is possible.
So maybe the answers to life's biggest questions aren't found in denying the transcendent, but embracing it. Food for thought, right?
Not really, but you're getting the whole issue of atheism wrong right from the get-go because your definition is wrong right out of the gate. It's not about actively denying the transcendent. It's about pointing out the fact that there is no proof for the transcendent's existence in the first place. That the claim that God exists and there's something beyond the objective reality that we can actually study and observe is a claim that doesn't have any evidence or has insufficient evidence or proof for it. You have mischaracterized what atheism is and thus make a lot of erroneous conclusions about it. Off script, this video really bothers me because it's a great example of what Christians do. They revise history in order to create this anti-atheist propaganda, and that's all this is. It's a propaganda hit piece. It's more of a rah-rah to keep Christians inside the camp, and then it does so by portraying a group, namely atheists, as something that they are not, and involved in history in a way that they were not actually involved in. Sorry, if Stalin was an atheist, and he probably was, there's no real good evidence that his atheism motivated for him for persecuting religious people. Hitler was not an atheist, and his thoughts about the Jews were more formed by the Roman Catholic anti-Semitic teachings than they ever were by any kind of Darwinian and evolutionary thoughts. I think actually the idea that he followed some sort of social Darwinism is false. He followed some form of evolutionary theory that's probably been debunked since, but he didn't follow Darwinian evolution because I think he actually argued against it. Okay, so he actually was a creationist. He believed in that sort of thing, and this is one of the things that troubles me about this little video the most, is the complete revising of who Hitler was in order to attack another group of people, the atheist. Sorry, theists, Hitler is on your team. He's not on mine, and I'm going to continue to make that point. You need to own up to him and just say, yeah, he's a really bad example of a bad Christian. Okay, that's the truth. Okay, he's not an atheist. He's not me. But you guys seem to be overly infatuated with this idea that Hitler was an atheist, which, not based on his words, based on what he did, based on his motivations as expressed in Mein Kampf, there's no good evidence for this whatsoever. Okay, if he was an atheist, I would own up to it, and I would say he was a bad one. But once again, the logic from reasoning from history this way is really bad. Just because you have bad examples of atheists doing bad things with things doesn't mean that atheism in itself is untrue. If I were to go through all the Christian examples, such as Vlad Dracula, the Impaler, a real person in which the mythical monster Dracula is made from, if you look at it, he's declared to be a defender of the faith and a hero to the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, but he ended up killing just a lot of people in the name of Christ. Okay, is he a good example of Christianity? No, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and make the erroneous conclusion that all Christians have that attitude. Okay, and you guys are doing the same thing in reverse with atheism. You look at these supposed atheist examples, one of which who isn't, and then you come back at me and say, well, that's what atheism leads to. That is a major leap in logic that you haven't really proven. And as for purpose and meaning to life, all nihilism really does is say there's no ultimate purpose. It doesn't say that you can't find purpose and meaning in your own everyday existence. Otherwise, most nihilism would just put a gun to their head and pull the trigger. But they don't for some reason. I wonder why that is. It seems to me that what they do is they say, listen, you can find a good purpose in life, but don't inflate your ego with this wishful thinking that you're a child of God and you have some eternal destiny and all this other crap. What they're saying is none of that has been proven to exist. So your existence in this world, you have to define your own purpose. You have to define your own reason for existing, and that's okay. And I'm sorry, this is all a propaganda hit piece. At the end of the day, this is the same trope arguments that apologists have been making about atheists forever that are untrue, unfounded, and quite frankly are lies. Okay, and I'm really getting tired of the lie that Hitler was an atheist, that atheism formed the foundation of what he did. That is just simply not true. That's a straight up lie. And from now on, I'm just going to call it that. Okay, it's a lie. He was not an atheist. Okay, he was a theist. And he's on your team and you need to own up to him. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. Of course, I'm interested in your thoughts in the comments. So comment away. Anything you do that gets this video noticed is always welcome and appreciated as I continue to try to grow my influence in both the atheist community and to continue to promote the normalization of atheism and deconversion from faith. So if that's something you're interested, consider supporting that. Super chat, super thanks, all that stuff is available, as well as my PayPal link in the description. But the best way you can support this channel is with membership. Consider your monthly support. That continues to give me monthly support where I don't have to, every member just basically allows me to worry less and less about the YouTube algorithm and focus more on doing the content you come to love and enjoy. So thanks to all my members. Appreciate all you, your citizens, your Rabyd citizens, your Tribunes. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. But as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So you don't want to waste all your time, your money, and opportunities on the trappings of religion and faith, which are a dead end, but instead give all those things to yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.